Hi, everyone. Welcome to Empowered with Gina podcast. Do you like our new look? I mean, look at us. Look at us having a new aesthetic. So, for today's show, I am really happy to bring you someone and a topic that is so vital and critical anytime in our life. But I feel more importantly at the start of 2025, Miss Adriana Alejandre, the founder of Latinx Therapy and a trauma therapist. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Gina.
Oh.
It's been so wonderful connecting with you just recently. Thank you.
I'm so happy you're here. And we've kind of just been in communication on social media.
Yeah.
Like, I just think a while, but then the fires, obviously, we really connected.
Yes.
But now we're really meeting in person.
I know. Again, at your lovely studio. If only people could see also the entrance. It's beautiful.
So thank you. So, okay, I always start my podcast asking my guest 3 adjectives to describe yourself.
I have ADHD. Let's try.
Okay.
So 3 adjectives to describe myself would be caring, poderosa, and introvert.
Ooh, okay, fine. Where did you grow up?
I grew up nearby here in the San Fernando Valley, specifically in Sun Valley.
Okay.
And I don't think I want to leave, but I don't know just yet.
That's all right. You don't have to know yet.
Yeah.
Okay, so what was your childhood like? I always like starting with that to build who the person becomes. So what was your childhood like?
You know, I'll be honest. My childhood was difficult. I grew up in a low socioeconomic household. My parents worked the graveyard shift to make ends meet, and I was raised by my older sister with my 2 younger siblings. And I would go to work during the day with my parents. They would sell clothes, knocking on doors at apartments. Children's clothes is what they would sell, or toys.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up selling toys also on street corners, juguetes, baratos, you know. And yeah, I grew up, I guess, as a hustler, unknowingly, knowing that would lead me into the entrepreneur that I am today. So I grew up with strict religious parents, but I think I've learned so much from how they raised us, and definitely the work ethics that they instilled within us. And I did become a single teen mom my first year in college, but that also just sparked like a fire in me to prove people that told me that I'd be another statistic wrong, and to give back to my community, because trauma is all I knew and all I saw.
Yeah. How was academics pushed on you as a kid? Was it important in your family?
Yeah, I would say so. It was everything. I could always remember my father saying, like, estudia para que no seas burra como yo, como nosotros. And I was very good at school. And I think now, you know, being in psychology, I know that it was the only area in my life that I could control. I had control over my academics, and I chose to excel. I was president at one point in my elementary school. And, you know, I tried to stay as involved as I could going forward in sports. And I did really well in school. And my goal eventually was to go to college, because I did want to get out of my house a little bit and explore life. And that seemed to be the norm for us.
So then college, where'd you go?
I went to UC Santa Barbara.
Okay. And you had a baby while you were there?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, walk me through that.
I know.
Gosh.
And he's turning 15 this year. So it's been a long time. You know, it's been such a long time. I'm so proud of him, and I'm so proud of myself too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, my inner child, like, just so proud of where we're at.
You're doing it.
Yeah, we have a really wonderful relationship, but it was hard. You know, it was hard being a 10th grader with a child. And I basically commuted from here, the valley, San Fernando Valley, to Santa Barbara, which is about a 1.5 to 2 hour drive, for the 3 years that I was there with him. And I finished on time. That was one of my goals. Like, I want to finish with my class, because I don't want to delay my career. I don't want to delay my opportunity to, you know, make income that I'm studying for, because my goal was also to help my parents with their mortgage.
Right.
And so I did it with their help.
Unbelievable. So you're in college, you're in therapy, in the world of therapy now, right? Was that always a goal when you were younger, or did you find that out in college? Where did it come from where you're like, this is what I want to do?
I never knew about the field of psychology. It wasn't until after my pregnancy. So I went in for business economics thinking it was business administration. You know, I'm first gen, the first in my family. I didn't know that there was a difference. So once I was learning like tax stuff and accounting, I was like, this is not for me. Like, I don't know.
This can't be what they're all doing.
Yeah, I was like, this is how they start, I guess, with numbers. It was really difficult. I wasn't passing. Basically, my school didn't have a business administration major. Right. So I didn't get into that major because this is all prerequisite stuff. So I went into communications. I failed as well. And I went into psychology as like a Hail Mary, if you will. And I barely got into the major. And so I'm glad I did. I ended up pursuing it because, again, this was all prerequisites. Like I just got in out of survival, not necessarily out of passion.
Interesting.
And I already had my son by that point, but I didn't realize that I was struggling with postpartum depression. And it was one of my professors who was a clinical psychologist. And I went to his office hours because, again, I wasn't doing well. And I had gotten a letter from the dean where I was going to get on academic probation. And so I was doing my best trying to, do better in the class. And he stopped me and he looked me in the eyes and was like, "How are you?"
Oh.
And it was, I always talk about this because it was one of those moments that changed my life. It wasn't like I could say, "Oh, good, fine." I did say that, but he's like, no, how are you?
Wow.
Yeah. And so
how wonderful of that man.
Yes. He kind of saved a big part of me.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Because he validated me. He heard my story. He's like, well, it's no wonder you're feeling the way that you're feeling, and taught me about the wellness center on campus, encouraged me to go to therapy. And I did go, but I couldn't last in sessions because I heard my mom's voice. She got mad because I got pregnant, of course. And she got mad because she wasn't the first person I confided in. It was my best friend, one of my best friends at the time, her mom.
Oh. And
she was like, we don't air out dirty laundry. You're supposed to solve problems within the family. You come to us. And so I felt so bad being in therapy, talking about what I was going through, that I was like, it feels good, but I have to stop.
How interesting. And so like you're touching on something I wanted to bring up. So, okay, so we're going to fast forward now. Yeah. So because I want to talk about this. You founded Latinx Therapy. Is it because of that cultural, societal
messaging?
The messaging.
Exactly.
It
was that moment.
So many of us and our parents and family members from seeking therapy because nothing's wrong with you. We can take care of it ourselves. Don't tell everyone. Nothing. That thing that we've all heard. You decided to do something with that. How long have you had it? How long has it been in existence?
I founded Latinx Therapy in 2018. I studied for it. I prepared on how to launch a podcast for a year prior. I got my license in 2017.
Okay.
And so I had been seeing clients, since then already as a pre-licensed clinician, and was already knowing that there were these taboos, stigmas, and themes within my community. And so that was fueling me up, plus my experiences. And I was like, it's not fair for people to wait, 6 months to see a Latina Spanish-speaking trauma specialist. It's just not fair. And I was like, there should be more of us. And so I started off with the Facebook group of Latinx therapists. And then I started off with the podcast. And from the podcast, I actually got a message from, I think it was iTunes at the time, Apple Podcast now, and they gave me a big feature. They requested my logo and whatnot, and they gave me a big feature next to Oprah. On their homepage, yeah. So I got messages from people saying, I never realized I could choose my therapist. I never thought that I could go to a Latina therapist. And so there I was Googling for people, Latina therapist in New York, Latina therapist, Massachusetts. I was getting tired.
So you were just grassroots, like yourself, on searches.
Yeah. And I was like, I can't continue like this. So
were you having success finding people?
No, that's why I was like, maybe the Facebook group, but then I was like, I need a directory, like long term. So that's people reaching out to me motivated me to think of a directory. because at first it was just a bilingual podcast, when la chancla crosses the line, what is bipolar disorders, those type of episodes. But yeah, it took about 9 months to code and create the first Latinx Therapy directory.
Unbelievable. Okay, so you create the directory. How do you start attracting people?
That's such a good question. How
did you advertise it to let people know this directory even existed?
I think because the podcast was going viral at the time, it was primarily through the podcast. And from there, I also started getting speaking engagement opportunities where people wanted to hear my story.
Right.
And I didn't know what I was doing, but I was going with the flow. And so I think at the speaking engagements, I was getting the word out. And when I would do speaking engagements, prior to that also, I would be doing networking events with therapists at parks.
Oh.
So like locally.
Yeah.
And so I was trying, because I craved for community. And so I was trying to get us together. So I think it was like a lot of little efforts that I was engaging in on Facebook, through the podcast, through my speaking engagements, and in the community that helped spread the word out organically. And then social media as well. Of
course, yeah. So you started with 0. Now what is it, directory-wise?
Directory-wise, that's a good question too. We fluctuate, but I want to say maybe it's about 800 members.
Is it local to Los Angeles?
No, it's national.
Okay.
It's national. We're still missing quite a few in many states.
Sure.
But yeah, I think we fluctuate between 600 to 1,000.
Incredible.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I can take the conversation in so many ways. I want to ask you about the business development part of it, but we could probably have you back another time to talk about that whole thing. I want to get to the crux of why you're here.
Yeah.
Therapy, trauma. Everyone's had some variation of trauma in their life. People that have had great upbringings, bad upbringings, and even in the present. We've all gone through LA fires. There's immigration raids happening with the new administration that's in the government. A lot of stuff is shifting quickly and causing trauma, especially for children. Tell me about trauma. Are there different types of it? What is just generally, because we hear the word, oh, it's so traumatic. Oh, I'm triggered. Oh, are people using the term correctly, or how generally do you view it?
You know, trauma is definitely something that's very subjective to one's experience. Like you and I could be, for example, in a car and in a car accident, but you might not have perceived that event to be traumatic, but I would define that event to be traumatic. And it really depends on someone's past lived experiences as well that can define that for them. And so I think that's as a holistic therapist, that's something that's really important to take into account with everybody. And I think once people also recognize that trauma isn't just physical injury, trauma is emotional, it's mental, psychological. Right. You know, there's different layers to trauma. I think people in marginalized communities tend to think that it's predominantly physical. Like there has to be something evident on your body.
Not emotional.
Not emotional. Yeah. I think now things are changing a bit more, but trauma is an event, a negative event or experience that has activated your nervous system in a way that where something similar in the future reminds you of that event, whether it's something scent-wise, you smell it, you see it, it reactivates your nervous system again into a fight, flight, freeze response mode.
Yeah. And so for people that are out there that maybe are considering therapy, and I've heard people talk about this, oh, I don't need therapy, or I've been thinking about it, but they just don't ever do it. Why would therapy be helpful to someone? And maybe someone hasn't had what they considered a traumatic experience, but it could be cumulative trauma. It could be things that are just throughout the day that stop you from saying yes or saying no or moving forward in your life. How can therapy help that?
Therapy is preventable as well. Therapy helps to prevent traumatic escalation of symptoms. And I think that it can take a bit. I want people listening to know that it's really important that you interview your therapist because I think the connection that you have with them matters the most, more than their licenses and specialties and trainings. The connection that you have will help you open up. If you are not opening up in therapy because you don't feel like you trust the person, then you're not going to be able to find that healing experience
right.
fully. And so I think that makes a difference. And it's in research as well. They call it rapport building, that it helps with the process. But yeah, I think that's important. And then how will therapy help? Well, to your point, Gina, you were mentioning, it's cumulative. Absolutely. And I want people to also recognize that therapy can be short term. So if you want to go in, maybe because you want to learn how to communicate that, how to communicate saying no, for example. You could do 3-5 sessions, just very hyper-focused on a problem area. Or you could learn how to relax. If you're always on the go, and you're like, I don't have a problem with it. Other people may have a problem with it.
Yes.
It works, but I want to explore it a little bit more.
Right.
It could also be short-term for that. And briefly, I'll give an example of how therapy has helped me. I think with a common experience of wisdom teeth extraction, given everything, all the therapy that I've gone through and my education, so I do speak from like that kind of the privilege of being a therapist. I was on a chair where they were extracting my teeth at the dental office, and I was relaxed because I had mentally, emotionally prepared myself, but my body was experiencing the trauma of the experience. And so my eyes were watering, my body was shaking. I was feeling cold, but mentally I knew I was able to talk myself through it. Your body's experiencing physical trauma, but we are safe. They know what they're doing. Turn up your music, so I was just guiding myself through those techniques.
Just hearing you talk about this, I'm like, ooh.
Yeah. But
right, the dentist does that sometimes.
Had I not had that information, I think I would have flipped out. Adriana from like 15 years ago would have probably had a anxiety panic attack. And so in that way, that's what I mean, where it could be preventable.
Yes. And I go to therapy, and it has been one of the most profound things I've ever done. And I didn't start until a year ago.
Yeah.
And I'm 44. And I'm like, why on earth didn't I go? Because like to what you said, culturally, we're not encouraged to. 1,
Right.
2, it's taboo. 3, nothing's wrong with me. I'm a strong woman. I don't need help. I can do it. I'm not weak. I didn't go through horrible abuse. I don't need...
Exactly.
Girl, I can't... I mean, I've talked to my daughter, anyone I can talk to about it. I'm like, please start therapy. It is... What do they call it? Food for the soul?
Yeah.
That's how I see it. It just is another set of eyes on your life as like a coach. You go to a trainer, a fitness trainer, you get coached in sports. That's how I saw it. I'm like, this is no different. This is someone coaching me, trying to help me get to my goal. And they're not going to take away the trauma. You're not going to solve everything.
Right.
But you're absolutely right. It helps you with tools to work through things.
Yeah.
Which is so brave and so admirable and difficult. So what do you say then to someone listening to this who is considering it and wants to take the steps and maybe doesn't even know where to start? What do we do?
The system definitely doesn't make it easy, I will say, as somebody that's part of the system as well. It's challenging to know where to start, but there are directories like the one I created, and there's other ones. So latinxtherapy.com, inclusive therapy, inclusivetherapist.com. Those are good starts. We have filters where you could search by your insurance or search by how much a provider charges. Search by, if you identify as LGBTQ, you could search their identifiers. There's so many different things in there, which is good. There's other more generic ones as well. Like if you even just put into Google, anxiety therapy for near me, or in what people have to know is that you have to find a therapist that is licensed in the state you live in. Otherwise, even though we're allowed to do virtual, we're only allowed to do virtual in the states we have licenses for.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I know. That's a misconception.
Right.
Yeah, we get folks from like New York or Kansas, and they're like, but you could do virtual, right? I'm like, yes, but I'm still limited to just my state.
Right.
Unfortunately.
For your license.
Yeah, and insurances, we can't bill outside of states either.
Right.
So that's important. Look within your state. And interview them, as I mentioned earlier, during the consultation. Majority of the therapists offer free consultations. I have questions as well on my website that you can ask. How much experience, or how do you work with people that experience anxiety or depression? What are some of the tools, or what does the first session look like? There's different kinds of questions, but what you're looking for is somebody that answers your questions and that makes you feel comfortable, that gives you space to continue to ask if you need to, of course, within the boundary of whatever time they're providing.
Right.
So I think that if you're feeling like, they didn't really answer in the way I wished, or in the way that leaves me informed, then, put them on the wait list,
Sure.
right? Continue your search.
Right. And don't give up. Keep going.
Yeah.
Keep searching. Going. So let's switch to trauma responses in the timely, newsworthy things that are happening. The LA fires and these immigration raids, and just the threat and fear of all of that happening. What do you see? What do you foresee happening as far as trauma responses as time moves on for the people involved? Like, what do you see happening? And then how best can, obviously therapy, but how best can community help? If you even have that answer, because I know we're all searching for it.
Yeah, I think so. I want to share that I have been a trauma therapist in various types of disasters, man-made and natural disasters. I've deployed out with the Red Cross in 2017 for Hurricane Harvey, and I was at the George Bush Center in the shelter. I've created my own support groups for the mass shooting survivors, for border, for pools, for various different kinds. I've been in initiatives that help farm workers during COVID. And so I've done a lot of this work, unfortunately, over the years, right? And so what I've learned from my training, but also from being out in the community, is that all of these experiences are creating a collective trauma. So that's where a group of people all together are experiencing the same thing and undergoing a trauma. Of course, like within the group, there could be people that don't think that this is a trauma, and that's fine. But this is a collective lived experience of tragedy. And what this does is, I don't know, I can't speak necessarily to the full research of this, but there is some research that shows that these kind of experiences, when they are chronic stressors, they do change our DNA. They lead to generational trauma, because if people do not have responses to deal with the trauma, with the stressors that are coming with these experiences, they're going to behave in ways that, they're just surviving. And what we're hearing for sure is that there's a lot of irritability going on, because they're experiencing stressors from the system. People are trying to kick them out of the shelters, right? There's no funding available for them immediately. They're tired because they can't sleep. They're on high alert. They need to go walk to a place or find someone that can help them go to the donation center, find them food or gift cards. There's just right now, like immediately, and I'm thinking of specifically of like the wildfire survivors.
Right.
They're
and then
exhausted.
They have kids.
Exactly.
That's just a person going through that, let alone a parent. But I mean, it's not dismissing that person isn't going through it. But then imagine you have little eyes looking at you like, oh my gosh. So then what? This collective response, now what?
Yeah. So I think it's kind of like your children in this example are also learning some of the behaviors of how you're coping with this stressor, with this trauma. And it's a cycle, it's a chain that will continue unless somebody breaks this cycle. How do they break this cycle? It's through some type of intervention. And yes, that could be therapy, but it could be some other form that helps your nervous system, something that can help you to find healing. And I want to keep that very broad, because all forms are acceptable for folks. I know that people do sweat lodges, for example, more like ancestral, indigenous types of healing practices as well, connecting with herbs. What I'm seeing immediately is that community has been a huge source of support. I think this community care of connecting with people that share your experiences, it has been pivotal for a lot of these families. It's not enough, but it's relieving, at least, to not feel alone.
Right, to feel seen. Right. and just talking about, again, the parents, I'm a parent, you're a parent. And so I do focus on that more often than not. What can parents in these chronically stressful situations, whether it's the fires, whatever they're going through in their life, maybe not even affected by the fires, what are some things they can be mindful of in their own life to help lower the stress? Not changing the facts, not changing the situation, but so that their DNA doesn't change. Are there things that they can implement in their life and help their children as well more easily navigate, if you will?
I think what you're tapping into is something like of internal resources, because yes, there are external resources, but there's also external stressors that are out of that person's control. And I think that's something as healers that we're trying our best to focus on too, is like, what things do you have under control? And a lot of that is like your mood, your attitude, how many things you're carrying quite physically. And so I think something that they can do could be implementing new relaxation techniques into their routine. What has worked for folks prior to this trauma may not work today because they're under different circumstances. Right. But I think that it's going to be, as difficult as this may be, like a trial and error for your nervous system. And some of these things can work one week and not another week. But right. I think creating a toolbox of coping skills can be helpful. And this isn't something that will not change your DNA. We really don't know, because again, like, someone's history will be very dependent on that. Yeah. Many of us already come from generational trauma families, but I think also, as parents, reparenting and the way that you correct yourself in the presence of your children is powerful as well. Like, I'm going to speak from somebody that hasn't experienced a disaster like this, but just someone that has made mistakes as a first-time young parent. And, I maybe have yelled at my son when he was little and didn't deserve to. And what has been powerful for me and a lot of my clients has been apologizing. I think from a lot of folks from a lot of collectivistic cultures tend to kind of see parents as like a hierarchy. We know better, we know best, we do no wrong, if you will. Like, you respect us. But
I just told my daughter, I am the boss of you. Well, she wasn't listening.
Right.
But as silly as that sounds, I got that from somewhere. Mm-hmm. Why do I say that? Mm-hmm. Like, she's her own soul and human. And why did I do that? Like, you're making me think of that.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's other ways. I think you were frustrated probably. And there's other ways that you could explain
totally
that, right?
Could have.
So it's like, how do we go back after we've made a mistake with our children and share with them, I shouldn't have said it that way. I'm sorry.
I can, if I want to, go to her later and be like, this morning I said I'm the boss of you. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry for saying that. I'm mom and I take care of you. Mm-hmm. But I don't know, like something acknowledging, like, I'm not the boss of you. You're your own person and I trust your decisions. But move faster in the morning when I tell you to put your shoes on.
And not but.
And not but. And move faster when I tell you to put your shoes on. We're leaving.
Yeah. No, that's beautiful. It's like simple conversations like this, but that can be so powerful.
But that's so hard for parents to do sometimes. Because it's ingrained in us.
Breaking cycles isn't easy. Going to therapy isn't easy. It's not going to a spa. It's not relaxing. It is work.
It's hard.
It is difficult, but it changes the perspective of your child. So, yeah, it doesn't normalize toxic patterns, right? Yes. That they may repeat one day, like we have and do, or that they don't normalize in the way that someone else treats them. So I think for all the parents, I know that parents going through the immigration threats and the wildfire relief efforts are in high stress situations. You might not have capacity right now, but if you can remember, some of these moments where you feel regret or where this conversation is making you think, I could have said that differently, or I could have done things differently, go ahead and make note, journal about these things. And when your nervous system is ready to talk about it with your child in a way where you correct yourself in front of them, I invite you to give that a try, but don't expect them to accept your apology. Don't expect them to soothe you. This is more for you to release, not to expect something back from them.
That's such an important point, because intuitively you would think, okay, well, I've apologized, so now say it's fine and make me feel better.
Exactly.
That's not why we're doing that.
No, our parents did that to us.
You see?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. We are peeling an onion.
Yes, we are.
Jesus. Okay. We can go on and on. I want to end it talking about journaling and the power of writing and getting your thoughts out. That's something more broad that anyone can do.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about this and why is it helpful?
It's a form of art. It's creative expression. It's, there's different styles and structures to it, but I think it's a release. So if you think about yourself coughing, have you ever tried to hold in a cough and it's like so uncomfortable and your body is just like, it's ugly. It comes out because like your body forces it out. Well, I think writing allows that kind of emotional expression. When you try to hold on to so many things inside, you're going to realize like it just feels good eventually. And it is a practice, because you have to, it might be awkward. It might be like, hi, diary. I am writing because my therapist said to, or because I heard it in a podcast. That's fine. As long as you're getting some words out. And I will say, when I was undiagnosed ADHD, I didn't realize that what I was doing was audio journaling because I couldn't really write my emotions very well. Like it always bored me.
Okay.
And so I would instead get a voice memo, like recorder, and I would just talk to myself, my feelings. Yeah. I think that's what we're kind of seeing with people on social media. Absolutely. Where they're just kind of like, but over disclosing. Yeah.
And then.
It's a form of storytelling about your day or about an experience. And it's relieving. It might not be for everyone, but if you haven't tried it, give it a go. Give, either audio journaling a go to answer, how did this day make you feel? What do you feel were some of the best parts? Have you embraced joy? If you're finding if you're feeling stuck with embracing joy or pausing impatience, where do you think that's coming from? You can go ahead and create different questions for yourself. And I'm sure on the internet, we can find so many as well that will help us with some journal prompts.
Oh my gosh. Okay. You give me so many ideas right now. I'm like, I got to implement these myself to see if they work. Put them in my toolbox.
Yes, toolbox.
So how can people be in touch with you? And we're going to put it down in the caption for anything that you talk about right now. So how can people find you?
Yes. So for anyone that has insurance or let's say is not a wildfire survivor, you can go ahead and go to latinxtherapy.com. That's where our directory and our podcast and self-help books live. Frequently asked questions as well. And you can explore the directory and the filters. The filters have been featured in quite a few articles and because they really are detailed. And like if you want a therapist that's a child of immigrants or formerly undocumented, we have that as well. So
those are such unique journeys too. And that's brilliant that you thought to bring it down to those specific levels.
I created something I needed, when I was younger.
And that's why it works.
Yeah.
You filled a need. Wow. Oh my gosh. Okay.
And for folks that are wildfire survivors, we have a list on the homepage of latinxtherapy.com, terapiaparalatinos.com, where there's an English and Spanish list of therapists that we have that are offering their services at no cost for children, adolescents, and adults. So they can call.
What's a good age to put kids in therapy, if there is a good age? Just we're talking about parenting.
Well, there's play therapy that allows a child to express themselves through that method. I don't specialize in children, but I'll say age 4 and above. But there's also like therapists that specialize in infants as well. Okay. Yeah. And so we do have the ages that the therapists specialize in, like 5 and above or 12 and above.
In the filters.
In the filters, but also in this pro bono sheet for wildfire survivors.
Very nice.
Yeah, and the days that they're available to provide free therapy and how many sessions they're available for. But if any wildfire survivors have insurance, we will recommend that they go through their insurance. But I've made myself available to find them a provider so they can call the number and I will help them, provide referrals for them to contact that's in network with their insurance. Because I know there's so much paperwork and appointments, and so I have an insurance matching program right now.
Oh my gosh. Well, I thank you just on behalf of community for solving your own problem, but more broadly solving community and society's problem and creating a solution to it. I can't stress enough the value that you're bringing and normalizing this conversation of therapy and looking inward, looking back, look and what we do with it and moving forward. And so I applaud you and I support everything you're doing. And thanks for your time. And I'm going to have you back because I want to talk about the business build out part of it.
Yes.
Because you created something out of nothing.
Yeah.
And it's thriving and it works and it's needed. So congratulations. And I can't wait to have you back.
Thank you, Gina. Thank you for inviting me, and congratulations as well. And for all your relief efforts.
Oh, thank you. All right. We'll see you later.